March is madness for a reason. And when I tell you that we've gotten some great basketball games today, we've gotten some great basketball this March. By the way, guys, interesting stat for you. It's the first time since 2017 that a 1, 2, 3, and 4 seed each made the second round. They did not lose the round of 64. So no real upsets this year. But we'll talk about some Cinderellas that we have seen so far from this basketball season. We'll talk about a lot that we got to witness around March Madness today as second round action will finish up today, and we'll do our previews of what we see so far. Not going to be here very long. Got about 20, 25 minutes max with me. But, guys, thank you guys for coming on inside the huddle. I'm your host, as always, Lucas Hill. Make sure if you're watching us, wherever you are, no matter what social media outlet you're watching us. If you're watching us on YouTube, hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Turn on the bell notification so that you are notified every time that we go live here on Inside the Huddle. If you're watching us on Instagram, leave a comment down below. Have your questions answered by me personally. Also, give us a follow at Lucas_Hill_17. If you're watching us on our affiliate X, leave a like, retweet, share it to those social media groups. Make sure that you share it to your message, to your group chats. Tell them, hey, Lucas Hill is live and breaking down a lot around March Madness and more around college football for about 25 minutes. So you don't want to miss any of this. Guys, thank you again for the support. Again, when we talked on, I think we talked yesterday. No, we did not talk. Yeah, no, we did not talk yesterday. When we talked on Friday, we talked about McNeese, by the way. We told them they had to play a complete game. They had to do it against a team like Purdue, who has been here before, that has an extensive record in all of college basketball with what Matt Painter has done with that program ever since he got here about 20 years ago. Guys, they're the defending runner-ups. How do you knock out the runner-ups? You play a complete game, and you shock them. Unfortunately, guys, you weren't able to do that. And you got dominated from start to finish. But, again, heck of a run from the amazing squad that they got. Look, Amir Khan going to follow Will Wade at North Carolina State, so we wish him the best of luck. Continue to bring the so-called aura that he has, apparently. But anyways, guys, thank you guys for joining in. So let's break down a couple of things. So let's start off with arguably the game of the tournament right now. UConn, Florida. Guys, that was a heck of a game. Guys, that was a really, really good game that we got to see. And one of the favorites going up against a team like Florida that everybody knows about this year. Florida was one of the surprises this year. They came out of nowhere and started dominating college basketball. Now, I know that with all that Todd Golden had to deal with the accusations of what he's had to deal with. Guys, they hadn't made the NCAA tournament. They didn't even go very far last year in 2024. And look at what they're doing with a guy like Todd Golden. Here was a team that going into 2022, when Todd Golden was hired, the farthest they had gone was under Mike White whenever they went to the Elite Eight in 2016. They haven't won a national championship since Billy Donovan was there in 2006 and 2007. Now Donovan's with the Chicago Bulls, by the way. Do I think that they can win a national title? Absolutely. I think that Florida, to me, is one of the most dangerous teams in college basketball right now. But I feel like a lot of their weak points, I felt like they were going to be on upset alert. I had UConn actually winning. I said, if you want to knock out the champ, you got to beat the champ. And that's exactly what they did. I'm impressed by it. I'm not going to put any slack on it. I was impressed by how Florida played. Was I surprised that it was a close game? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Walter Clayton, heck of a game. He does what all Americans do. Walter Clayton had a great game. The biggest difference, though, is shooting. Guys, Florida just outshot you at the end of the day. 47% from three, 27% for UConn, 46% for the field compared to 37% for the Huskies this year. And what was a down year for them? I'll be honest with you. You know, I thought going into this year, I thought that this was a team that was going to continue to do what they've done all year. And they just didn't. I don't know what happened, but hey, it was a rough year for UConn. I'll just be straight up honest with you. They didn't end off on the right note. You lost 3 in a row at one point to Memphis, Colorado, and Dayton. But you end off the year fairly well. Or actually, I think you lost 3 in a row at the start of the year. Then you just looked inconsistent at the end. But then I started to get momentum after what they did against Oklahoma. I thought they performed very well. I knew it was going to be a tight game from start to finish against Florida. Guys, this run for UConn is not over. It's a rebound phase for them. Let me just tell you. It's hard to three-peat in the world of college basketball, especially nowadays with how NIL plays a part in many other teams. And you just can't do that anymore. You can't just three-peat on a regular basis. Do I think the dynasty is dead? Absolutely not. UConn still has still is going to be a consistent force in collegiate basketball. I don't think their dynasty is dead at all. I think you missed out on a lot of opportunities that you had, but I think UConn at the end of the day made this competitive, and it was going to be competitive from start to finish. Am I surprised that UConn lost? Yes, absolutely. Held the lead majority of the second half up until you got to, I think, the final 10 minutes of the game or so. Yeah, at one point, this was a 48-42 game. Yeah, you held the lead going into the final 10 minutes, and then, look, give Todd Golden and company credit. They managed to get it done when it mattered most. That was a back-and-forth game. An impressive game that we got to see. First lead of the game that Florida had near the end of the game with about 2:52 left whenever Walter Clayton made plays. Guys, Walter Clayton has done this has done this over and over and over. And is this to anyone's surprise? Not to me. Guys, Walter Clayton has had one of those seasons that you haven't seen from Florida in a long time. And he's going to go down in Florida history as restoring the basketball program. He and Todd Golden. Forget the accusations about what happened with Todd Golden. Florida basketball is about to enter a new era with what Todd Golden is bringing to the table. So, guys, get ready for more. It's only beginning, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Managed to tie the ball game up. Florida got to 6. And then that's when you end up getting to the point where you're basically having to shoot 3 free throws. You're trying to foul. And I think just at the end of the day, man, it's just too little too late. You know, I thought UConn was going to win that one. I'm not going to lie to you. Like I mentioned, guys, if you want to be a champ, you got to beat the champs. Ric Flair said it best. And unfortunately for UConn, that didn't happen today. So I wish Todd Golden and company luck, dude. What they're going to do this year is going to be incredible. I don't know who they'll play. I think they'll play. I'm trying to look right now at the bracket at what the Sweet 16 looks like. They'll play the winner of Colorado State and Maryland. I think Florida will win that. And then they'll play the winner of Texas Tech and Arkansas. That'll be played sometime this weekend. I think it'll be a lot of fun getting to see Florida and Maryland play. Maryland's had a pretty decent year in, what are they in, the ACC or in the Big Ten? They're in the Big Ten, I think. Maryland used to be in the ACC. But I think that Kevin Willard and company will take care of business against Colorado State. I think they'll be able to get past them. As inconsistent as they have it, they had a tight one against Michigan. I thought they could have won at the end of the game. But I think they've been one of the more underappreciated programs in college basketball this year. You know, they dominated the first round. I think they'll dominate later on tonight, and I think they'll take care of business and go to the Elite Eight, or they'll at least go to the Sweet 16. That's all I'm going to tell you at this point. Do I think that it's going to be good at the end of the day? For Maryland, probably not. You gotta shut down Peyton. That's all I can say. Continuing on with what's some more. How about Arkansas this year? Dude, they came into St. John's. That was a heck of a game. Rick Pitino going up against John Calipari. Guys, that was a matchup that I think a lot of people were looking forward to this year. And I think a lot of people need to really consider that game. It was a really, really good game that we got to watch. And guys, if you're surprised about what Arkansas did against St. John's, I would not be really surprised, to be honest with you. Guys, Arkansas came in dominated from start to finish. You had no shooting from downtown, I'll give you that. But guys, who made the big play at the end of the day? It's about who you have off the bench. You expected more from St. John's whenever you came off the bench. You expected better shooting at the end of the day. Guys, Arkansas shot 42% from the field compared to St. John's 28%. Your two main guys that you've been reliant on majority of the season, R.J. Lewis Jr. and Aaron Scott, Zuby Ejiofor. Guys, they really didn't do a whole lot. Let me tell you what their stats were. Ejiofor, 37 minutes, 7 of 12 from the field, 9 of 11 from the free throw. R.J. Lewis, 3 of 17 from the field, 0 for 3 from downtown. Aaron Scott, 1 of 10 from the field, 1 of 6 from downtown. Went to the free throw line 4 times. I don't know what to tell you from there, man. I don't know what happened going into that game. Guys, you just could not get anything going. And I think that's what's been so irate about Rick Pitino's squads is that you've been used to them having decent shooting teams. But guys, look, Rick Pitino has been known for his defenses ever since he was at Kentucky back in the 90s. Then goes to Louisville, implements some more full court pressure defenses. Goes into a 2-3 and a 3-2 type defense. And you just did not do anything when it came to your offense. That was horrible. It was not fun. R.J. Lewis, where the hell were you at? You're the Big East Player of the Year, and you do nothing from the field. They outplayed us. They deserve to move on, and we don't. That's what March Madness is all about. No matter how good of a regular season you have, you play this way, you're going to get beat. That's the truth, guys. That is the absolute truth. Guys, number 1 defense in the country, not going to matter when you give up 42% from the field. Does not matter. John Calipari and company, I would not be surprised if they make a Final Four run. Knowing how Calipari squads have done in the postseason, they just turn it up a notch. He's done this time and time again. It's going to happen again. Don't be surprised if Arkansas ends up in the Final Four. They're going to have to go up against a tough Texas Tech defense that I think is one of the best in the Big 12. I think shooting-wise, Texas Tech has been okay. I would say they're average. And I think if you get them at the end of the day, God dog, I haven't had my mic in front of me. How dare I? I think if you get them on a bad day, I think that you'll be able to knock out the champs. I think you'll be able to get a Final Four appearance, and it'll show a lot of Arkansas fans why you hired John Calipari in the first place. Forget the inconsistency on the basketball. especially going back to January. When you got into SEC play, when you got into February, that's when you turned it up a notch. And that's what you needed going into the tournament. You needed momentum, and you got that. All right. So that's the two biggest things that we wanted to talk about today when it comes to the NCAA tournament. Let's look at the men's bracket right now and just show you who is in the Sweet 16 as we continue on. All right, looking at this. Auburn is headed to the Sweet 16 against Michigan, who dominated against Texas A&M. Ole Miss and Iowa State will be playing later on tonight, as well as Michigan and New Mexico, Michigan State and New Mexico. Iowa State and Michigan, that's going to be a fun little matchup. I promise you that's going to be fun. Looks like Duke's going to move on to the Sweet 16. They'll play Oregon and Arizona. Dude, I'm worried about Arizona. Dude, I think Arizona just came out pissed off last night. They came all pissed and dominated that Akron team. But I think this is I think this is going to be a deep, defensive-minded game. I think at the end of the day, it's about whose defense is going to make the biggest play at the end of the day. I think that Oregon might pull this one out. I think they'll cover. At the end of the day, guys, it's going to be a close one. BYU is headed to the Sweet 16 after a close one with Wisconsin. I didn't have BYU going very deep. I'll just be honest with you. And I know that with what BYU had done over the last several years. And look, you bring in a new head coach in Kevin Young, who was a former associate with BYU. And you come in and you make the Sweet 16 after going into your first year in the Big 12, not supposed to really do a whole lot last year with Mark Pope, who is now at Kentucky, and you end up doing some great things. Guys, it's going to be just fine. Mark Pope, by the way, is headed to the Sweet 16 pretty soon. They'll play Illinois later on today, though. We'll see. Let's continue on with looking at the Big 12. St. Mary's and Alabama is going to play. I think Alabama will win that one. But I'll say this. Alabama didn't play that very well on defense against Robert Morris. Their post defense is bad. Let's just be honest with each other. Looking at the West and the Midwest brackets, Florida's going to be waiting on Colorado State and Maryland, like we mentioned already. Purdue and Houston, I think it's going to be probably the game of the Sweet 16, depending on what happens with Kentucky and Illinois. Tennessee will meet the winner of that. And like we mentioned, Texas Tech, Arkansas will play in the Sweet 16 as well. So that's it for you with your March Madness updates. All right, let's talk about a little bit from our sponsor. Again, every live show is brought to you by our good friends at vocalbreaks.com. Let's hear in from more from our good friends.
Are you a music producer, DJ, or just someone who loves to remix tracks? Well, say goodbye to messy, low-quality track separations and hello to vocalbreaks.com, the most powerful AI-driven music editing tool on the market. Unlike other separation tools, Vocal Breaks harnesses the most advanced AI model available, delivering crystal clear vocals, pristine instrumentals, and an unmatched precision, all online with no software required. You can extract vocals or instrumentals with studio quality accuracy. It's perfect for remixes, mashups, karaoke, and music production, and for a faster, cleaner, and more reliable than any other service. So if you want the best, don't settle for less. Go on over to vocalbreaks.com and use code LucasHill10 now and experience the full future of AI-powered music editing. That's vocalbreaks.com using code LucasHill10.
We reported last week about John Emery stating that he will be returning to college football for a 7th season. Well, Brian Kelly had something to say about it in his press conference. So this came as a surprise, and I heard somebody in the comments say this earlier, saying that he might go to another school. So LSU Tigers running back John Emery announced on Thursday that he's planning on returning to college football for a 7th year. Evidently, that was a surprise to BK and his coaching staff. It doesn't seem as if Emery's 7th year will be taking place in Baton Rouge. During a presser on Saturday, he addressed the announcement and stated that it was the first he's heard of the running back returning to college football for another go-around. So this is what he said about it. He says that no, we haven't talked to John about it. It was the first that we've heard. We love John, but sometimes things happen. We don't know where it came from, but we will be supportive in any way we can. We are set with where we are with the running back position, but love John and we'll be here to support him. If he's given a 7th year, he is certainly a young man who can help somebody in the Power 4. So he's still early in the process in deciding where he's going to go. My thing is this. You're dealing with a kid who's been in college football for 7 years. He's had a torn ACL. Guys, he's already graduated, by the way. I don't know where he's going to go. I do think at the FCS level, he'll have more success. Do I think it's going to happen? Probably. So he's had 2 ACL tears. One was in contact during practice and was also forced to miss the entirety of the 21 season. By the way, his junior year of high school back in 2017 got cut short due to that same injury. So, look, the kid has shown flashes of talent. And look, we've talked about this on Thursday, that the kid has all the talent in the world. But at the end of the day, guys, when you have that sort of injury history and what you've done so far production-wise, you just are not going to get the same looks that you used to get out of high school. It's not going to be like that. It just simply won't be like that at the end of the day, guys. Whether you like it or not, that is the truth about John Emery. And I hate to see that for the young man because I thought he's had an illustrious career because of what he's been able to do. Guys, to me, he's probably one of the most talented running backs that just never could get on the field, that has struggled with knee injuries, that has struggled with ACL tears. He hasn't been able to get on a roll, and that's what sucks. So this is what the running back room looks like for LSU. Obviously, Trey Holly's absent right now. You have 4 scholarship backs in Caden Durham and Caleb Jackson who have been pretty good. Caden Durham's coming off of a 1,000-yard season. You bring in 2 top-tier recruits in Harlem Berry and JT Lindsey, who, by the way, I watched JT Lindsey at the state championships. The kid is a workhorse of a running back. Also, they've moved around Juwan Johnson, who's played at quarterback. He's played at running back. He's played at tight end. He's played at DB. They've moved him around a lot. So I'm not sure with what they're going to do with John Emery. I don't think it's not going to be at LSU. That's for sure. If he does make the decision to transfer out of the LSU program, he'll be able to do so when the next portal window opens up in the spring. So again, guys, we'll see what happens. We'll keep you updated as we get closer. All right, we're hitting the 25-minute mark. That's going to end it for us here today. Y'all have a great Sunday. We'll catch y'all